Hi, I'm Kent Purdy, part of the NetIQ team here at OpenText. And in this video, I'm going to review what makes securing remote access so important and why passwordless authentication is foundational to it. Even before the pandemic, teleworking and other remote access trends were becoming more common. In fact, nearly 2/3 of US-based workers do so remotely, at least occasionally. This type of access poses a higher risk to organizations because unlike being connected inside the intranet, the networks they're working on are not secure. For example, picture yourself dropping by your favorite coffee shop to get some work done. Do you really know for sure that someone's not there trying to hack your session for a man-in-the-middle attack? Or how do you know that Wi-Fi entrance page hasn't been hacked to try to download some malware on your device? Beyond the inability to control the network, the use of personal devices is another security disruptor. In fact, 7 out of 10 organizations allow their employees to use their personal devices to access corporate information. When you reflect on the way that IT has secured company-owned devices over the years, it's clear that these practices have been obsoleted. Since there typically aren't any management agent on BYODs or personal devices, they pose a higher risk. And of course, in many ways, these personal devices accessing information from public networks are black boxes, at least to a certain extent, for IT security teams. While there are various options for securing network access, VPNs have become the most common. They're perfect for places like coffee shops to protect against threats that I've mentioned. This is where passwordless authentication comes into play, most always in the form of multi-factor authentication. Not only do regulatory agencies require it, 2 factors are more secure than 1. I've already mentioned how BYOD breaks long-time security practices, but another way of describing the problem is that since they aren't corporate managed devices, the way that you can secure access from them is to focus on the person using it, which is why the potential damage from having a phished credential is all the more dangerous. Passwordless authentication, especially when using multiple methods, is resistant to this kind of attack. As an aside, it's also worth pausing for a moment to emphasize the power of least privilege. Least privilege is a practice of granting only as much access rights as needed, no more. It's one of the most effective ways to lower your risk from a breach. This loss of visibility caused by remote access from BYOD devices is a real issue, and as I've mentioned before, it prevents IT from providing the best security. It also means that the best strategy to deal with this limitation is to focus on who's using the device, which translates into a reliable way to verify claimed identity. Of course, you have the option to make identity verification so strong that it becomes unusable, or at least very cumbersome. But that really isn't an option. It would just simply frustrate users and drive down productivity. But when you're able to match authentication to the measured risk, you've gained the ability to optimize both convenience and security. Risk-based authentication is when you compare current session metrics like geolocation, network information, browser fingerprints, etc. of the session at hand to the values that are expected from the policies or rules that have been defined. The fewer the matches, the higher the risk is assumed. No matches translate into high risk. Now that you have the risk score, you can invoke the kind of authentication experience needed to protect against it. Perhaps you tie low-risk access to a frictionless authentication method, while a high-risk situation could force the user into something a little more intrusive, like forcing a passkey after touching a fingerprint reader. User behavior analytics goes beyond prescribed metrics by building behavior profile over time as patterns are tracked. Behavior analytics are important for 2 reasons. First, unlike rules that prescribe risk levels, behavior analytics don't require administrators to build them. And the added benefit is that behavior analytics can protect against vulnerability blind spots. Behavior analytics can play a key role in reducing the number of prescribed policies controlling access to different service types. Trying to account for every situation through risk policies can quickly get out of hand. What you want to do is build a foundation on user behavior and then define the rules only that enforce corporate policies or are the most basic. But behavior analytics allow you to simplify dynamic authentication. Let's talk a bit about the options for deploying and managing passwordless authentication themselves. Too often, organizations deploy the software that came with the appliances they purchased. This can be a real problem when an organization deploys multiple technologies that each require its own set of administration tools. Imagine your security team is having to go through multiple tools. A user is either onboarded, changes role, or leaves the organization. Now let's switch over to NetIQ. Not only is advanced authentication designed to be the integration point for passwordless methods, but it's tightly integrated with the rest of the NetIQ identity and access management portfolio. It also has a rich set of plugins and interfaces that are able to protect all of your digital resources. Let's summarize the key points. Remote access to internal information that is sensitive or regulated is becoming more problem. Organizations manage that risk by establishing VPNs. The use of personal devices accessing this information is also another risk point for organizations. The best way to protect against that is to focus on verifying the identity of the person using the device itself. Passwordless authentication plays a pivotal role in both securing access to VPNs and to verifying the identity of the person using the device. Organizations that use the software that comes with the authentication appliance or device that they purchase run the risk of creating authentication silos. Authentication silos force organizations to have multiple administration points to update authentication policies, creating both higher expense and vulnerabilities. NetIQ Advanced Authentication provides a framework where all of your authentication methods can be managed from a single point. Thanks so much for watching this video.